Good day. Good morning. Today it's March 28th, 2021. And this is going to be episode 13. And the title of it is Awareness of You. That's awareness of yourself, which is in a sense your being, your memory, unequality, racism, and last but most important, responsibility, awareness of responsibility. Now this video is coming out to kind of answer a woman that was at a Patriot meeting that I went to a couple weeks ago, and she was bemoaning and just saying, what can we do? These school board of governors just do whatever they want to. The government does whatever it wants to. And there was a couple of us, or a few of us, attending that meeting that had given a talk a couple weeks earlier, or a couple months or sometime earlier, I don't know, I wasn't there, about the assemblies that are forming all over the country. And this is actually self-government. I've mentioned it before on some of my videos. Anna von Wright's material. And incidentally, they've got a great brochure put out recently, and you can get a copy of this either at the Arizona State Assembly.org or Pinal County at reborn.com. That Pinal County, as Anna has said, and also Gordon Call back in 1983 was teaching that the counties really are where the power in this country are. And of course, for those that you are aware, he was assassinated, or a hit was put out on him, just like more recently up in Oregon, although he was from northern Arizona, Lavoy Finnegan. It's kind of like a movie, Tom Cruise movie. I can't think of it now. Anyway, where they stop crime before, Minority Report, I think was the name of it. Stop crime before it even happens, by the powers that be put out a hit on Gordon Call. And in a sense, that's the same thing that happened to JFK. He was getting too many people following him, and JFK wasn't following the orders that were handed down by the powers that be. Now, what I'm pointing out in this video more than my others is that we have a dual system operating, and it's been operating in this country for hundreds of years, actually. But if you become more aware of it, and thanks to COVID-19 lockdown, people are becoming more aware of the separation that we're having, which is a separation into the dual aspects, such as those who believe that Joe Biden is a legitimate president of the corporation, and vaccines, that vaccines are going to save you, and that Mother Nature doesn't know best, and that corporations have the answer. These corporations that have developed these vaccines, they're going to save you. So you have those people on one side of the camp, and then you have those that have more sense or are more aware of what's going on around them. And the trick to surviving is having an awareness of yourself or your being and where you stand in the world that we live in, occupy, the time that we occupy today. Now, those that follow the government and the media and everything are constantly bombarded by racism, by the terms racism, which are just trigger words to get you off balance and going in a direction that is really meaningless. The people that are in the news media, so-called news media, that's continually talking about racism, they're the racists, as I've said before. The kids are being taught all this racial stuff so that Joe Doe or Joe Smith is now supposed to be looked upon as the black guy, Joe Smith, where since the civil rights movements of the 60s, Joe Smith just happens to be black. We've lost everything that we've gained from the 1960s onward by this new push of racism. So what I'm also saying in this video is that we have, there's a light coming in here somewhere, we have really unequality. Everybody is different to a certain sense. Where equality is supposed to come in was equal under the law. We obviously don't, we're all unequal in our intelligence. We're also unequal in our awareness. We're also unequal in our memory of what happened last week or last month or 2 days ago or 4 years ago, what happened in an election. Those that are more aware of their memory, have a longer memory, have an advantage of those that live in the moment. And I'm going to make another video, episode 14, if I'm not interrupted after this, that's going to concentrate on time, time awareness. Okay, getting back to this woman that was at the Patriot meeting. What has been brainwashed into you is that a representative form of government is the top. And I was discussing this with another woman and her sister last week, and she was aware that this country wasn't formed as a democracy. She said it was a republic. And I said, yes, that's true, but a republic isn't necessarily what you want. And by that I mean a Republican form of government. The best form which is what the Revolutionary War, which is not taught in the schools, in the communist schools today, that was a war of independence. What came later was a republican form of government. Now, or later, more recently, we have democracy, and even more recently, we have communism. And that's what's been taught in the schools for over 40 years, is communism. And you people out there that have sent your kids to these public schools, it's your fault that you haven't done anything. You've passed your responsibility over to the school boards and to the republican form of government by appointing them your representatives. And when you do that, when you sign these papers to be a voter, a citizen, you are giving up your responsibility and appointing it to a representative. So you're giving up your freedom unless that representative truly represents you, which hasn't been the case for decades and decades. Now, before I've said that you're lawfully giving up your title of nobility, your power of attorney to a representative, and that representative sells out to the corporation because he gets more benefits and more money and more entitlements from that corporation. And in this brochure, it mentions what I've said before about the British East India Company, which is under different names. It's East India Trading Company, and that is a grid. It was the first corporation, and it still exists today under the City of London. It never went away. And they establish a grid, a trading grid, and they claim as an empire, anybody who uses that grid is their subjects. And so when you pay monthly or yearly to this grid, whether it's electric or gas or any utility grid, or a token grid, your monetary system, the banking system, especially when it's based on debt, borrowed money, because you're always paying interest on that, they own you. And that's what the grid is claiming, that since you're using their utility grid, you owe them. So what the Revolutionary War was all about was independence, not necessarily a constitution, which came later. You're not a signature to the Constitution. There was a dumb movie made back in I think the 1970s or 80s or something. It was called Starship Trooper, and one of the big actors in it was the TV guy that played Dogie Howard. It was that medical MD in the teenage or something like that. But anyway, it was about aliens, and going out and fighting these aliens that looked like gigantic ants. And it was a dumb movie, but there was one point in it that was really good, and it's worth watching. They had a dual system that was brought out in that movie, and they called it citizens and civilians. And you get an idea of what citizens and civilians, and what we have today is citizens and the elite. And if you're truly independent, if you don't sign your power of attorney to a representative, you have that power of attorney, and you are equal to the elite, the powers that be. You are an elite. You are separate from the masses, because the elite, they have their mark on you through the grid. So you have the elite today, and you have the chattel, the cattle, that are owned by the elite. So what I'm saying here is what the power and the position that independence of the grid, independence of the chattel, independence of the slavery is the same as the elite. So you are the elite. And the elite, the powers that be, the government can't argue that, because in a sense, if they take your right to be independent, to reclaim your power of attorney away, well then what they stand on goes too. So in a sense, what I'm saying here is my hat is off to Bill Gates, because he's pointed this out in the separation process of the COVID-19, which, as I said, is a separation process. Now, to get that, you might have to review all my earlier videos to get a better understanding of the dual system that we live under. It's kind of like the movie Avatar or Star Wars. You have, like in Star Wars, you had the Republic or the good guys, and then you had the Empire out on the starship. And the Empire was a corporation. It was an artificial being, just as what we have artificial persons. The corporation is a person, and if you are a member of that corporation, you've signed up to that, you are a person. You're no longer a man or a woman. You're no longer a natural man or a woman with the Creator's laws backing you. You have given yourself over to the artificial corporation, which I've said is on automatic. It's running on a false model. Dr. Fauci, who's basically running the system today, he's making more money than any other employee of the government because he's had more time in grade. So, but he talked about the model. These people really don't have any intelligence. They work on models. And the problem, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a model. A model is a form of awareness of what we have. The problem comes is when you have a faulty model. And that's what Fauci has with the entire COVID, this bacteria that is out here attacking everybody, and that the only way you're going to be safe is get this vaccine. And it's a faulty model. Let's put it that way. Just like I've said, your whole medicine is based on a faulty model, a faulty understanding of nature, a faulty understanding of the fourth state of matter. Just as I was saying, the similarities of aerodynamics, of flight, of how an airplane flies, the whole idea of a wing shape and how that creates lift. It's based on a faulty model. We're taught in college and in high school that it's the difference of the airspeed over the wing and under the wing, and the difference there is what creates a lift. And I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying that's a small part of it, that the actual cause of the lift is a Coanda effect, and that's the sticking, the adherence of the air going over the wing. That's where you have two different surfaces. You have, or two different